Welcome to Ask Jerry and Ray Anything About IBM Z. Today's topic is, in my best Ray imitation, what is ISPF? Well, ISPF is Interactive System Productivity Facility. Thank you for coming. You want to know more? Oh, okay. Well, I guess we should give you a little bit more information. So today we're going to show you the primary option menu for ISPF. And if you ever used it, that's the very first thing you see when you get into ISPF. And then we're going to talk about the very first option on that screen, which is settings. So the additional question is, how do I make ISPF work the way I want it to work? And so we'll look at the settings and what we can do. And here's the things that we're going to cover today. What ISPF settings are, how to customize your workspace, what PF keys are in ISPF, why experienced programs use them, and how to reclaim valuable screen space. All right, so let's take a look at ISPF. This is ISPF. This is the primary option menu, the first thing that you see when you get into ISPF. It's got all the options of things that you can do from this screen. And today we're going to look at settings, which is option 0. All right, when you say option 0, you get this screen. And this is the first of two screens. There's so many screens, so many settings that we actually have two screens worth. So this is the first one, and this is the second one. Now, the only thing that's additional are the terminal characteristics. And these are emulations, these are models of IBM's green screens from the past. And so we started out with 3277. You got all kinds of different choices that you can make to make it match your emulation. So my choice is a 3278, and I want, yes, I'm sorry. My choice is 3278T, and the screen format is Max. And I've become quite greedy. Ray may not be as greedy as I am, but I want all the screen I can get. So my emulator allows me to have as many as 60 rows and 160 byte columns. And once you get your fonts and everything right, you've got a wonderful screen. You can see everything that you want, as much as you can see, and it really seems to go better. All right, so let's go back to that first screen. And if you'll notice, in the upper right-hand corner in that box, it says more. Well, if it's a plus, you press PF8 to get to the next screen. If it's a minus, you press PF7 to get to the previous screen. So 8 goes down, PF8 goes down, PF7 goes up. Now, we'll talk later on about function keys and where we get PF from versus F. Today's PC keyboards, they all have, excuse me, they all have F, but the original monitors, they had PF, but we'll talk about that later. Excuse me. All right. So, but the very first choice on under the options is command line at bottom. And I believe that's the default. In most places I've been, that's the default. And that's the first thing that I change. I want my command line at the bottom. I don't know why I prefer it that way, but it's very uncomfortable for me when it's at the bottom. So I didn't put a slash there. So that option is not selected. So that means my command line will be at the top. If you want the option, you put the slash there. If you don't want the option, you don't put the slash there. And you can do help and see what all these various options are for. A fairly recent change are the member list options. So you can scroll the member list, you can allow an empty member list, and you can allow an empty member list when there's no match. Allow empty member list means if I say jerry.test.data, which is a PDS, and there are no members in there, it'll still go into the screen where if there were members, it would show it. And from there, I can select a member if I'm in edit, and it will create a new member. Before, it would say no members in the data set. I'd have to go in and give it a member name, and then I could, see that member. And from that point on, if I saved it, it would give me a list of members. Now, if it's empty, it gives you an empty list, and you can select it. It's a matter of, for me, of speed. I don't want to be sitting around saying, oh, there's an empty data set. Now I've got to go in and give it a member name. And, this way it says, oh, yeah, it's empty, but you're there. And I can select something and go on from there. Um, in edit, and we'll talk about that in the next session, you can also specify or view or edit. You can specify match. You can specify a character string that you want the members to match. Now, if there's no matches, if you don't have the slash here, it'll come back and tell you no members found. But I'm once again, I'm greedy. I want to go and give me the list. And if there's nothing there, then I can do something different. But I just don't like sitting there on that first screen waiting because I'm kind of impatient. All right. So I
Yeah,
think that's all we've got on the first screen.
yep. Next, we're going to move along to the options at the top. So if you put your cursor under any of these options at the top, you can hit enter and it'll pull up a little submenu, very similar to a lot of the GUIs that most people are familiar with these days. It's just you still have to use, cursor placement and enter. So the first option set we have here is for your log and list data sets. These are your ISPF log and ISPF list. These are generally going to be per user. Depending on how your ISPF proc is set up, they might be shared, but I'd say very rarely does anyone do that. They're all very personal type items. So then you can put a number on this smaller selection list and select any of these options. So the first one we're going to look at is the log dataset defaults, option 1. It pulls up this panel and it'll pre-fill anything that's already known to the system that's in here. And you can go ahead and change any of these options. Personally, I have it set to process option number 2, so that whenever I log off the system, it deletes the log data set. I personally don't really do anything with the log data set, so I don't think there's a reason to, waste disk space on this. Because otherwise you have other options, like you can print the data set and delete, or you can keep it and then just keep creating new ones. Slightly different options between 3 and 4. 3 will keep the same one and then just keep building on that list, or that log, I should say. So you always have, your history. But again, I don't use it, so I don't really care about the history. But then number 4, it just keeps allocating new ones. So it'd be like ISPF log 1, ISPF log 2, that kind of a thing. If you're printing it, you can set different things in the sysout class. You can set how many lines per page, all that information. But that's really only helpful if you're printing it. All the other options kind of ignore all of these options. And similarly, if we go back to this panel here and we hit number 2 to get the list data set, it looks very familiar. It's the exact same thing. The only difference is the title. So you kind of have to make sure you know what you're doing, which one you're affecting when you go into here. Again, I personally don't use the list data set, so I just delete it when I log off. Jerry, you said you use it for different things. Can you give us an example of something you'd use the list data set for?
Yes. If I go to 3.4, which you don't know anything about, but this is uh, I can give it a list, give it a qualifier. It'll give me a list of data sets. A lot of times I want to do things to that list of data sets. So I can say save, and it will put that list of data sets into the list data set. So then I can say, I can give it the list command, and it'll come up and say, okay, you're using list three. What do you want to do? I can tell it that I want to keep that existing list data set and allocate a new one. Now I've got that list of data sets with whatever else happened to be in the list data set. It's getting confusing. I got too many lists. But in the list data set, now I've got that list of data sets. So I can say, okay, I'm looking for the ones that end in R or end in that have query in it or whatever it is. I can then get that list of data sets and do something with it. And so that's the main reason I use the list. Um, you talk about you didn't want you didn't even want to look at it. I used to by default when I got a TSO session, I would say that I wanted zero primary pages and zero secondary pages for the log data set. That meant it never got allocated. But there are some cases where I really needed it, so I stopped doing that. So
Okay, cool. So once you have your log and your list defaults set up, um, this is like the best use case I would say is like, for the default setting is when you use an X from the main screen, which just closes out ISPF and applies your default actions. Otherwise, if you just use F3, PF3 to back out from the main screen, it'll still pop up a screen similar to this and ask you, what do you want to do? It just pre-populates with these defaults. Uh, Moving on from here, the list dataset characteristics. This is more of a, again, still tied to the list dataset. Do you want a fixed block? Do you want a variable block? And then your LRECL and line length. So again, more default settings for the dataset characteristics. And now we have the log and list JCL. So this is if you want to send something to the printer or if you have a job card for certain things that you can't really copy from a job card easily, this will give you a default one to start with. And that's always a good place to start. In this case, personally, I don't set that because I've never really come across an area where I need it. But again, if you do find something and you use it often, this is a great place to set it. And moving on to the next set of, or the next menu and submenu of items, we have our function keys. As Jerry said, this is your function key or your program function key, as it used to be called. And these are all the different settings you can do for your function keys. The first thing that you can do is set what they do. And by default, you have 12 function keys or PF keys. And so you can set, by default, these are what the default ones, default options look like. As Jerry said earlier, your PF7 is up, PF8 is down, PF10 will move left, PF11 moves right, and then a couple other options that people use here and there. But if you don't like those options, you can always change them. You can also add more. So on the next panel, if you decide to set it for 24 keys, you can have 24 keys. But your keyboard only has 12 function keys. How do you get 24? Quick answer is the Shift key. So that'll allow you to access 24 function keys with 12 keys. I don't know if you can actually set a different modifier based on your terminal emulator, Jerry, but I think Shift is kind of the default for that.
I think shift is the default. and I only use one emulator. I've used the same emulator for about 20 years, so I don't know what anything else does. So
Yep. Okay. Well, other options we can do, we can use number 4 here to actually show your function keys at the bottom of the screen so that you know what options are set. So you can always, just look at the bottom of the screen, like in this one here. It'll show you, actually, looks like it really only shows you the ones that are applicable to the panel. So, your up, down, left and right aren't active because it's not a wide screen. Other options like help, almost always going to be available. Split allows you to create a second session, if you think about it that way, a second panel that you can swap back and forth using PF9. Uh, you can actually set up to, I think the default is 8 screens, but you can set it much higher if if your system administrator sets it higher. The only problem with more sessions is it requires more storage, more memory. And so if you're using fairly memory intensive panels, you might run yourself out of storage space, and things don't work right then. And there are also certain command keys or commands that will do what these menu options do. So previously we used, we went up to the function keys menu, we selected function 4 to show the PF keys. You can actually just type in the command PF show off to turn them off, or PF show on to turn them back on. So it's kind of nice that there's little shortcuts so you don't have to keep coming back and forth to the system setup panel whenever you decide to try and change something. And so at this point, this is what it looks like after you turn the PF keys back off. You get a few more lines there at the bottom, and as Jerry said, it's kind of a greedy thing, but you want to see as much stuff on your terminal as possible, because sometimes you want to look at a function that might be 30 lines long without having to scroll up and down to make sure, okay, what's it do before that? What's it do after it? And again, this is all personal preferences, so set it up how you want. Make it functional for you. And so that brings us to our last screen here with some little tidbits of wisdom. And
and
Jerry, you
I
want to
I
start us
thought we
off?
could say them in unison, but then I got scared of wisdom of wizard stuff, and I said, we said it in unison, then who knows, something might pop out of our screens and consume both of us. So we're just going to say alternate alternate options. I'll start. ISPF adapts to the way you work.
And small changes can drastically improve your productivity.
And learn one setting at a time.
And let your workflow determine what you customize. It brings us to the end of today's session. We have our next session, which will be another continuation of the ISPF discussion. But as always, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments section, and let us know if there's something else you want to learn about. We love talking about it.
All right. And remember to subscribe and hit that like button. We're trying to get to 20 subscribers.
Got to start somewhere.
Other YouTube things, we're trying to get to 1 million. We're trying to get to 20. We're being realistic. Thank you for your time.
And we'll chat with you in the next one.